Happy Thursday night. That can only mean one thing. It's time for your favorite Alabama Live on YouTube, where we do everything everybody else does, just a little different. Chris is out tonight. He's got the vid. It got him. You guys all know Bill is Bill's still out and about.
He's got the grip.
Yeah, doing secret squirrel stuff. So it's just Jeff and I tonight. Just kidding. We have a special guest. Before we bring him on, please do the dang thing. I don't know if you guys saw, but we actually did an interview last night with four-star linebacker Nick Abrams. Really cool interview. Gave some insight on his recruitment, his time at Alabama, and he talked a lot about the culture there and how he feels like it's very similar to what Bama was doing under Nick Saban, and that a lot of the
something's going on up there.
Yeah. So go check that out when you're done here. Tons of recruiting stuff going on. Last official visit weekend starting. You've already got some guys on campus. I've seen Andrew Bone, Brett Greenberg, a bunch of guys posting. I think Max Sutter, 4-star tight end's already on campus, and then 5-star running back. Some places have him as a 4-star, but Xavier Crowell is already on campus too. Some big names.
Cool.
Things are.
What's up, everyone in the chat? Roll Tide, everyone.
Things are getting ready to heat up. So if you want to keep track of all that, we'll feed it to you as we learn it. Best way to do that is to like, subscribe, and most importantly, hit the notification bell. But tonight we got a special treat. We've been promising for a couple of weeks that we were going to bring on Mr. Clint Lamb. And guess what, guys?
He's here.
He's waiting backstage on you. Jeff, you want to bring him up for us?
Let's bring him in.
Go ahead. Hey, Clint, how you doing, man?
Clint.
What's up, fellas? How y'all doing tonight?
Welcome to the show, my friend.
Fantastic. Thank you. This has been a long time coming.
It has.
Clint has endured direct message after direct message from me going, hey, man, we got room for you tonight. Hey, man.
I would say that you guys have endured my hectic schedule where I was having to feel like there was several Thursdays in a row there for a while where I was having to hit you up and be like, I can't do it tonight. I know that was the plan. Normally I'm not like that, but it was just kind of a crazy. This is supposed to be the deadest part of the year for us. And yet I feel like you try to cram all of your other stuff that's outside of the job into a very small period. So kind of life gets in the way sometimes. So I appreciate you guys being patient.
Oh, of course, man.
Life always happens, bro.
Yeah. J-Bake has referred to you as the legend already. So, we got to work around your legend status and make it happen. So we're happy to do it. For those of you who don't know, Clint is, I'm gonna fanboy here a little bit. I've got a ton of respect for Clint Lamb, not just his insight and expertise, but also his ability to maybe do a little trolling sometimes. My favorite thing that you do, Clint, on social media is I love that you don't let people just try to bully you in the comments. Like you put them on blast, man. Like a lot of people are like, don't worry about the comments. Clint's like, nah, man, this guy said something stupid. I'm gonna make sure everybody knows he said something stupid. And I love it, man. I love it. And so Clint, everybody in our chat, they love talking recruiting. And I know that may not be your main area of focus, but I hear you talk about it sometimes. We have a group chat over on X, and there's some folks over there that are just stressing out right now because you see guys committing to Ohio State. Florida had a big week. Texas A&M had a big week. And it's been a little dead outside of 4-star quarterback Jet Thamala and then Sam Utu 2 weeks ago. But I keep telling people, like, look, I think it's coming. Like, I think that there is the torrents of the quote unquote summer rain are on their way. In your professional opinion, am I right or wrong?
Yeah, kind of you duck on water. Everything seems really calm on the surface to the average fan, but behind the scenes, got a feeling there's a lot going on, a lot that's already gone on, to be honest. It's a matter of waiting to announce. I mean, Hayes Fawcett doesn't just tweet that out for no reason. So there's at least 3 coming that we know of. There's a bunch more that I know the staff is feeling good about. So, kind of what I've been telling people, let's talk in early to mid-July. And if things are still slow at that point, we can have that conversation and I'll be right there with people sharing my concerns, but I just don't think that's going to be the case.
No, I don't either. I think there's starting around the 26th of this month, there's a lot of guys that you in the chat are going to want to be paying attention to. Not saying that Bama's going to get them all. They're not going to get everybody, but I think you'll potentially see some movement Yeah, they'll get some, potentially see some movement. But Alabama did have some movement earlier this week. It kind of, for some people, felt like it came out of nowhere, but Iowa State commit flipped to Alabama, the 4-star quarterback, Jet Thamala. What are your initial impressions of him?
Impressive guy. I mean, he's got a lot of height and size. I think he's already 200, 205 pounds, 6'4", 6'5", somewhere in there. Yeah, different places have him. I mean, you get ranges for guys. I think even maybe somewhere even has him listed at 6'3", but I think he's every bit of 6'4", if not closing in on 6'5". But, really athletic guy, underrated athleticism, didn't really need to use it this past season, winning his high school team a state championship, but it's certainly available to him should he need it. But, this is a guy that kind of wants to win from within the pocket, really strong arm, can attack the intermediate to deep parts of the field, kind of inconsistent with the mechanics, him compared to some of these other quarterbacks they've been recruiting. That would be an area that I would say he needs to continue to work on, but he's only a high school kid. So not really surprising that that's the case, but just the raw tools, the raw ability, very impressive guy. And if he was the kind of prospect where Alabama was looking for somebody next year, I would say, that could be a cause for concern, because I could see him taking a couple of years. Seeing him pressed before he was ready could end up affecting his entire development. But with where we think Alabama is going to be, which is no sure thing, but Ty Simpson probably this year, Keelan Russell probably next year and 2027. If that's how it ends up working out, which there's a number of different ways that it could, then that would give him time to sit, learn, and develop. And you got to trust this coaching staff and their ability to develop quarterbacks behind the scenes. So I think it's kind of like the perfect prospect for Alabama to bring in.
Yeah, and he's not, the guy's no scrub. I saw his junior year, he threw 47 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, something like that. I don't care what level you're playing football. That's pretty impressive for a quarterback. Obviously he got the Elite 11 invite. He performed well there. He wasn't popping off the page, but what I find interesting about him is there were some similarities in his recruitment compared to how Alabama went after Keelan Russell in that 2025 class. I think you've kind of shared some sentiments on that too. Can you kind of talk to that a little bit and what you think about how they're, maybe processing who they want at that position?
Well, there's been like a second wave of quarterbacks that they've offered, and I think they understand where the position could be post 2025. And I want to start there because so many different ways that it could work out. Once again, I'm going to probably say that 1,000 times, but when I'm talking about hypotheticals or how things, Nick Saban would get mad at me, by the way. But, I kind of live in the hypotheticals because I'm thinking ahead. I'm trying to figure out what it could look like. But with, if Ty Simpson has a good year, he chooses to move on to the NFL. It starts to look like it's going to be Keelan's job. What happens with Austin Mack? If Ty chooses to come back, what happens with Keelan? Is he willing to sit for a couple of years? What happens with Austin Mack? I could go through a number of different scenarios, but it is entirely possible. In fact, in some ways, might even be likely at this point that Alabama will lose 2 of its 3 quarterbacks after 2025. Now, I've got to wait and see how it plays out, but I think the coaching staff is kind of anticipating that possibility. It's kind of like Nick Saban trying to play 3D chess, make sure you're several steps ahead. I think the transfer portal post 2025 will be a direction they could take as far as adding somebody. Maybe if Ty Simpson chooses to leave, maybe it's Austin Mack versus Keelan Russell, and that's the battle. Maybe something happens. But I could see them bringing in a transfer portal guy and having a high school quarterback like Jet Thamala, and that being your quarterback room. Like I said, there's a number of different ways that it could work out, but I like how they're building the room right now, both for the immediate, obviously for what they have, what they already on the roster, but how they're starting to look ahead a little bit. With Thamala, the comments about his recruitment being similar to Keelan Russell, I don't know that he's going to have the type of rise that Keelan did. He's a very special player. But what I will say is that this kind of second wave, and I would put Beaver in this conversation, he's a really exciting guy. I really liked what I saw from him on tape. I actually compared him a little bit to Jackson Dart. I think he's got, first round ability if he's developed properly. But with Jet Tamala, this is a guy who has all those physical tools. Now, he hadn't put it together to the same extent that Keelan Russell did, but he does have things that you can build around. He was committed to kind of would you say Iowa State's in a comparable place right now to SMU last year? Maybe, maybe not. But, he's the guy who's starting to see his recruitment pick up quite a bit. And I think Alabama hopped in right at the perfect time, as this coaching staff typically does, where they're kind of ahead of the curve as far as the evaluation process. A lot of other schools came calling as well, but he certainly is a guy who's starting to make that climb.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just watching him, Tom he's on campus this weekend, I think, for an OV. But I like you said, I think his ceiling, I'm not saying his ceiling's not as high as Keelan Russell, but I think we have to be careful putting those expectations on that kid. I mean, I personally think our expectations for Keelan Russell are a little bit too high. It's easy to forget this kid's a freshman. There's a lot of people that think he should be the starting quarterback. And I personally, this is just my opinion, I think that's baseless when you have, Austin Mack, who's been in that system with Kalen DeBoer for years, and then Ty Simpson, who has sat there and learned at Alabama. So how, in terms of, let's flip the script here and look towards the 2025 season. A big talking point recently has been quarterbacks, and a lot of people for a long time is a big debate amongst Alabama fans. It's looking like the dust is starting to settle, and we're starting to kind of see clearly now on the horizon. It's Ty Simpson coming over, riding a crimson colored horse, I think, and so does everybody else. Do you feel like it's kind of a done deal? I mean, when Bama kicks off at 2:30 Central Time in Tallahassee, it's got to be Ty Simpson, right?
Well, I certainly think it's trending in that direction. And I think we need to be able to acknowledge that. That does not mean it's been wrapped up. There's no sure thing that Ty Simpson is going to be the starter. And I'm not even talking about, an injury holding him back. I mean, we have to remember Keelan Russell has had very limited snaps in a college program.
Right.
And 0 snaps as far as playing in a live game. Austin Mack, despite the fact that he's been around for a couple of years now, he was a younger player. As Ryan Grubb has mentioned multiple times this offseason. Prior to this spring, he had never really been given the opportunity to get a lot of reps in practice because of where he stood on the depth chart. And so this was the first opportunity for really the emphasis or the focus to go in on him as one of the guys. And they saw him make strides, but he's got to continue to get better. He's got to cut down on the turnover-worthy plays, be a better, more consistent decision maker. He's got a lot of natural, God-gifted ability. He's just got to continue to tap into that and do the right things. But, who knows what can happen as you get into fall camp and you start letting these guys go at it. But what I will say is that Ty has done everything that he's needed to do to position himself to be Alabama's starting quarterback in the season opener. And so that's a good thing. That's what you want. He's the guy who has the most experience. So going into a place like Tallahassee, I know everybody wants the freshman to come in and be the savior and be the hero. And you got 3 years of this. That's going to be a tough environment. I think Florida State's going to be improved on both sides of the football. And, what you don't want to do is hinder Keelan Russell's development because you have to. So I think with where they're at and with where things are trending, it kind of works out for both parties. I think Alabama can have a lot of success with Ty Simpson this season. But once again, it's not a guarantee that he's going to be Alabama's starter. I just wouldn't be surprised if Ty not only won the job, but also held on to it through the duration of the season.
Yeah. I like what you said about hindering Keelan Russell's development. Nick Saban has voiced some of those opinions about, throwing quarterbacks in the fire a little too soon. And it's interesting because the same people that are kind of saying that are the same people who want Kalen DeBoer and this staff to be more like Nick Saban. And so, I guess the dichotomy of man.
I mean,
it depends on the kid. It depends on the makeup of the kid. I mean, they threw Jalen Hurts in when Barnett flamed out in the first quarter and he exploded.
And I think that
not everybody's Jalen Hurts.
100%. And what I want people to understand about that is it's not that Jalen Hurts, even at that time, didn't come with some limitations through his youth, especially. But really, I mean, even when he got an entire year of experience, I would argue he was actually probably worse as a sophomore than he was as a freshman. But I'm not saying that there weren't certain things that the staff had to work around, but he had the right stuff mentally where you could put him in those situations. I mean, one of his first plays, if not his first play, was a fumble. And, his ability to overcome that, lead Alabama on some scoring drives, start to really get things going. We all know, I mean, I actually didn't even realize until recently that they had multiple punts to start that game. Like the first 4 or 5 possessions were punts, and then they still were able to beat USC 52-6. But that was, you got to be wired a certain way mentally, and you've got to be able to overcome the mistakes. And these young kids, sometimes they get thrown into the fire and they just don't end up responding well when adversity hits. So it's not that, it's not that you got to focus on what he does from a talent standpoint, because I don't think there's going to be too many limitations whenever he does become Alabama starter, even if it's sooner rather than later. But it's more of, okay, when things go wrong, making sure that you're not hindering his long-term development. I think, a lot of people, they don't take that into consideration enough. And we've seen that a lot. I mean, I think it would have benefited Bryce Young quite a bit had he been given the opportunity to sit and learn for a season. Instead, he was named the starter pretty much from the day he got drafted. Didn't have to battle with anybody, really struggled. It wasn't until he got benched, was able to take a step back and kind of evaluate and, learn a little bit about playing in the NFL, where he was able to come back out there and he was a completely different player. So that plays a huge part in all of this.
Well said.
Good point.
Yeah, well said. And I trust I believe in the coaching staff. They're going to put the right guy in for week 1, whoever it is, whether it's Ty, Austin Mack, Q, whoever it is. They're going to put in the best guy that gives us the best chance to win. They'll know. I mean, Grubb knows what he needs from the quarterback position. So does Debo. So I believe in them. So whoever QB1 is that Saturday, that'll be the best option.
Yeah. Jeff, you brought up Ryan Grubb, and Clint, let me ask you your opinion on this. I've said before that I felt like Alabama's offense was a little, there's a class of people out there that feel like it was hindered because of inconsistencies with Jalen Milroe. That's all well and fine, but I felt like some of the issues were because Ryan Grubb wasn't at the helm of the offense. You brought in that, first year Nick Sheridan comes in. How do you feel, man? Do you feel like with Ryan Grubb coming in, it's going to be completely different than what we saw last year? I know there's other factors like quarterback and things like that, offensive line, but I just feel like, is Grubb that missing piece that could really put this thing together and be what we expected to see when they all came from Washington?
I do. I do want to point out first, though, because you talk about the inconsistencies at the quarterback position, and I completely agree. I've said similar multiple times.
Yeah.
Tell me a spot where they weren't inconsistent offensively last year. Name a position group, because you can go the offensive line, the tight end blocking, which was their huge element. There was huge inconsistencies there. They were phenomenal one game, and then really struggled in other games. The running backs were anything but consistent. The wide receivers, look at a guy like Ryan Williams. Like the way that he was kind of Jekyll and Hyde a little bit at times last season. Jeremy Bernard was probably one of the most consistent pieces, but that's an individual player. From a wide receiver room as a whole, very inconsistent. So while I do think a lot of it was a result of Jalen Milroe, I also want to point out that I don't think anything was necessarily going right around him to help compensate for that. And I think that this year, and that includes play calling, by the way, with Nick Sheridan, which you brought up, and with Ryan Grubb, what I like about where things are trending is that a lot of those inconsistency issues, I feel like, will be cleaned up. I think with the wide receiver room, I think it's in a much better place. I think a year 2 Ryan Williams is a much better player than a year 1 Ryan Williams, who was only 17 years old, a true freshman, who really should have been playing in high school. I think that Jeremy Bernard being more comfortable in his surroundings, even though he was already a pretty consistent piece, he's going to continue to grow as far as being a leader. I think the other wide receivers in that room, you've got depth, guys who fit the Kalen DeBoer, Ryan Grubb offense way better. I think with the offensive line, the continuity factor, the fact that Caden Proctor's now been a multi-year starter, Parker Brailsford, we know that he kind of struggled in his transition to, from Washington, Alabama, as far as spring. but he seemed to come on and get a lot more comfortable the course of last season. You won't have those problems to deal with. Jaden Roberts is hopefully healthy. You've got, two pieces who were at least started one game for Alabama in Gino Vandermark and Wilkin Formby. And you also got a guy, Cam Dewberry, who started a lot, or at least, quite a few games in the SEC. So I think just across the board, all of that's big time as far as going from inconsistent to consistent. But I think the Nick Sheridan youth, as far as being a play caller and an offensive coordinator, going from that to not only getting a seasoned guy like Ryan Grubb, but the dynamic and the comfort there. Kalen DeBoer probably feels like he's at his best when he's with Ryan Grubb. Now, that's going to make people concerned because at some point, more than likely, Ryan Grubb's going to leave again. I don't know when that's going to be. But, I think that what him coming back is going to help. I love that Nick Sheridan's staying on the staff. I hope he sticks around because, whether people liked it or didn't, I think in some ways he was he was the problem. I also think he was kind of held back a little bit as far as the offense he wanted to call relative to who his starting quarterback was. Yeah. So, I like the fact that he's staying on staff. I hope that he can the first time that he was under Grubb, he was the tight ends coach. I'm sure he had kind of a hand in the game plan, but his history now and the fact that he's now working with the quarterbacks, I think he'll more so be groomed where, it could be a very seamless transition from Ryan Grubb and Nick Sheridan the second time around, because one thing we know about Kalen DeBoer, he wants guys that he's worked with and been comfortable with and that he trusts. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if Nick Sheridan ended up being Alabama's offense coordinator again down the road. But I really like what Ryan Grubb's going to bring to this offense in 2025 and potentially 2026, because he's got a great feel for not only what Kalen DeBoer wants, but he also knows how to attack defenses.
Well, you also got to remember that, Nick Sheridan wasn't expecting to be the offensive coordinator either.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, oh, crap. Grubb stayed back with the Seahawks. We're going to need an offensive coordinator. You're the guy. And he's like, what? So he wasn't ready for that. And he shouldn't have been.
Very weird chain of events, the way that kind of all transpired. But hey, guys, there's 170 of you watching right now. Do us a favor. If you're not subbed, be sure to go do that. While you're over there subbing to us, make sure you head over to Cover Crimson. Give them a sub. If you're not following Clint on social media, I highly suggest it. You guys, you can hear it. The guy knows what he's talking about, and he speaks with authority, as AK said up here. He said, Clint nails it as usual, and keep preaching. Now, Clint, in your opinion, if you had to put a question mark on this offense, let's get away from the quarterback. Where would it be? For me, obviously, I think we saw the list that came out. What does PFF put out? Alabama has the number 1 ranked offensive line going into the season. I'm more of I want to see it first. But if you had to put a question mark on a position group for this offense, where would it be this year?
I would say the offensive line. I feel confident in where that position group's heading. I obviously just listed a bunch of reasons why I think at bare minimum it will be better than it was last year, even though you probably lost your best individual piece in Tyler Booker. But I think that the scheme and the way that it's supposed to be designed, it's supposed to protect the offensive line. And just with the way that they had to, I felt like nobody was comfortable. I don't ever felt like Jalen Milroe was super comfortable running that offense. I don't ever feel like Nick Sheridan and Kalen DeBoer were super comfortable with Jalen Milroe as the quarterback. It never felt like that they I think the inconsistencies on the field, once again, it was a product of a lot of different things. But I think that when you look at the offense and the way we're expecting it to improve, I fully would anticipate that if Ty Simpson ends up being the starting quarterback, he's going to be, at bare minimum serviceable and a good player who's able to take advantage of the players around him, the playmakers around him. But the offensive line, while I like where it's trending there, I can't disagree with anybody who says we don't know. Like Caden Proctor, we're expecting him to take a huge step forward. If he just takes as big of a step from year 2 to year 3 as he did from year 1 to year 2, that he's going to end up being one of the best players in the country and will be in the conversation to be the number 1 overall pick, because I don't think people realize just how much he did improve last year. But to expect that same kind of leap, that might be, it might be a stretch, but if he can play like a first round talent, which I do think is possible, hopefully he's lost a little bit of weight. I think that he could have the left side locked down. Do think Wilkin Formby is going to be a good player. He's going to go through some growing pains on the right side, but I think before it's all said and done, he's going to end up being a great bookend option for Caden Proctor. But, the depth is a potential issue. We think Olasolinen could end up being a decent tackle if he had to come in, maybe even be a swing option. But we haven't seen that when things go live. So that's an unknown. Is Jackson Lloyd close to being able to contribute? Arkell Anugum, what does he look like? Like, there's just a lot of question marks as far as the tackle. And if you want to get more specific, I feel pretty good about the interior. I think they got depth options. I think they got good frontline starters, NFL talent up there. I think they're going to be just fine. I just worry about the tackle depth, and it's an unknown. If I had to go with another one, it would probably be tight end, but I also like where that's trending, but we just don't. I really like Danny Lewis. I've seen him do some good things in the spring games that he's played in. I think he's got the ability to be a complete tight end, but we have not seen it on the field on Saturdays yet. And it's very unfortunate that, he wasn't available this spring, but they did go out and get some reinforcements. Once again, you feel pretty good about that position, but it's definitely an unknown relative to the others.
Yeah. I feel like for me, I was thinking tight ends. But also the offense is it's in general, it's young this year. It's very, very young offense. And when saying that, a lot of people are drawing comparisons to this offense. They're comparing it to the 2020 offense with Mac Jones. And I don't know that people realize just how once in a lifetime that kind of offense can potentially be. And I think you kind of got to you want to temper your expectations there when making that comparison. I know I've said it on your show before in the comment section. You feel like Bama fans need to be careful thinking that Ty Simpson is going to come in and be the next Mac. I mean, they had 3 first-round wide receivers on that offense.
That was a big critique. When he was in the pre-draft process, a lot of people, it was okay. He looked phenomenal and he looked like he took massive steps forward. But I mean, how much of that was the players around him? Sure. If some of these players are who we think they're going to be, we might be having similar conversations about Ty Simpson. But at the same time, he's just got to manage the offense and game manager. It comes with this negative stigma. I mean, do what is required of you, distribute to your playmakers because you've got a ton of them. And, there are going to be times where the game is put on your shoulders and you've got to go out there and win it for Alabama. I mean, that's just the nature of college football. The days of the Nick Saban era and destroying 98% of your competition, that's gone. You've got to win close games nowadays. And we've seen Caleb Nabor have to do it at Washington when he got to the national championship. They had to win a lot of close games. Obviously, they lost some games last year that ended up being close, Tennessee and Vanderbilt. Michigan was close as well, but there was also, the South Carolina win. There was the Georgia win, several close wins and losses. Got to figure out a way to come out on the right side of that more times than not. But he is a talented enough guy where I think that with the playmakers that he has, I think he's going to have a ton of success. I just imagine an LSU fan right now trying to say that this 2025 LSU offense can be their version of 2019. And it sounds absurd. But, when you – and I'm guilty of this myself. There's some homerism baked into that. And I have to remind myself, okay, you're seeing all of what it could be. And if it all does come together, it can be special. There's nothing that I look at and say that's a huge liability. Don't see. I've got answers for everything for you. I mean, if you ask me about any position group, I've got answers and I can make it sound really good. But it's got to come together and actually be that. And if it does, it can be 2020. But the chance of all those things hitting, probably not likely. I just don't know where the chinks will be, but Alabama will have to find a way to overcome those if they end up presenting themselves.
Well, offensive line in 2020 was phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, there were beasts everywhere, led by the center, who just set the tone for everybody else, and you just saw what happened from there.
Well, speaking of questions about position groups, we have a member question. This is Red. She hangs out with us a lot. She said, Clint, how do you feel about our special teams going into 2025?
The biggest unknown of all of it, right? I mean,
isn't it always?
Yeah, well, yeah. I will say when you had Connor Talty and James Burnip,
yeah,
you know, not Connor Talty, Graham Nicholson, it's like you had the Lou Groza award winner. I mean,
no comment.
Miami, Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, and it ended up not being as solidified or as, you know, big of an advantage as maybe we thought. I don't think it was like a liability necessarily, but he just never really was given a whole lot of opportunities to kick.
He only had like 10 field goal attempts all year or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, in a Kalen DeBoer offense that you think is moving the football at will, and you would think there was a lot of opportunities to being scoring position. You come up just short, you kick a field goal, and I would like to. I mean, I would probably need to go dive into why that was. I mean, there was inconsistencies with the offense, but it still had quite a bit of success. But anyways, but this year, I mean, whether you're talking about long snapper, whether you're talking about punter or kicker, all three of them. I mean, you know, you like some of the options. They once again, it's something that could come together, but it's just a complete unknown. And I'm not going to lie to people and say I know a heck of a lot about how to evaluate specialists and what it's supposed to look like. And this guy's going to do that. I mean, because I don't. And if I did, I probably wouldn't be sitting here and probably be getting paid a lot more money because I don't think a lot of other people out there know how to do it either. So, you know, it's just going to have to be a wait and see. And hopefully, because, I mean, she's right to bring it up, because if it can end up being something that gets Alabama beat in some critical moments, which prevents them from reaching their season. So I can hype up everything else. All it takes, you know, sometimes losing 3 games, as Alabama learned this past season, 3 games can keep you out. You know, they got to make sure that, you know, special teams isn't something that contributes to that.
Is Talty a kicker or a punter?
Kicker.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be pretty good.
Okay. One more member special teams question. Herb and Rod, you were on their podcast a while ago. They're asking who's returning kicks. It's got to be Bach, right? Isn't that the favorite right now, I would imagine?
You know, yes. I would. He's one of those guys where you got to figure out a way to get him involved. And I think that he's still learning as far as being a wide receiver. But this is a great opportunity to get him some spot snaps on offense, but let him be a massive part of your return game. And it's not like it's not throwing him a bone where it's not earned. Like, he's one of your most dynamic. He might be your most dynamic athlete. So, you know, let him contribute it in that way. Let him make a couple of big plays. Let him chip in as far as maybe on some of the coverage units, do some of that stuff. I mean, he's got a cornerback background, so he can cover kicks, cover punts, and then, you know, let him develop kind of behind the scenes as far as that receiver, because I just don't think that you need him this year. I'm not saying he's not going to play, but, you know, I don't think he's a guy that you necessarily have to have, and it's going to take him a little while. He spent his first year on the college level playing corner. He was a do-it-all Swiss Army knife. I mean, what didn't he do in high school, it feels like? Man. But the one thing that we know he can do is he's a bona fide athlete that can make plays with the football in his hands. So give him that opportunity on special teams.
Anybody could doubt, go put in tape of the championship game in high school, his last year in high school.
Oh, yeah. The kid popped off, man.
Lord.
Popped off.
I mean, my gosh.
Clint, you got time to talk a little defense, man, before
Yeah.
Okay. I know those questions are coming. So defensively, the expectations are through the roof for Alabama, especially that secondary. But we get a lot of questions. There's some concern amongst our viewers about Alabama's defensive line and pass rush, just because we saw a lot of aggressive pass rush last season, but there was just knack to where guys just weren't finishing. And I want to see, like, how are you feeling looking in? What's realistic to you moving into 2025?
Yeah, you know, I think that we're talking about it a little bit differently. If LT Overton just finishes, right? We'd be talking about, hey, now granted, if he finished the way he should have, he might be in the NFL right now.
I'd say he'd have been in the draft.
Yeah. So, I mean, we still might be having these conversations. So it's actually, in some ways, it might be fortunate for Alabama because he is a massive disruptor, easily the most disruptive player on their defensive front. And he's got first round upside. Right now, I would probably say a lot of places would have him going day 2 just because, you really don't know. But, I think that he definitely has first round upside. I think Tim Keenan is extremely underrated, but he's more of a run defender, can push the pocket and do some things as far as commanding some attention, which presents opportunities for others. And he can be a bulldog in there for you. But he's more so, I view him as he's not like a true 3 down, going to be super impactful as far as your pass rush. James Smith, to me, is the X factor. Now, Edric Hill, I think, is going to contribute. I think he's going to be a big part of the interior pass rush. Obviously, Jeremiah Beeman is a guy I've heard phenomenal things about. And I don't think he's got a clear path to a starting job. But he's one that after this year when Tim Keenan leaves, I think Alabama's going to continue to be in really good shape there at the nose position. But James Smith, his ability, he's more of, is he super twitched up? Is he like, is he an Aaron Donald type of penetrative style of defensive lineman? No, he's got elite run stopping ability, but I definitely think he's got enough twitch to make a complementary impact to the run stopping ability and be a true 3 down guy. And I think that they're going to get a pass rush from the Wolf position. With the way they like to play it, when it's playing off the ball and stuff, it doesn't always make the kind of impact that you would like for it to. But they definitely have some guys who can get after the quarterback. I think they'll give them more of those opportunities, like a Jan Zapier. He'll get more opportunities. I think Jordan Renaud, the power profile that he brings to the table, getting him some work both over a tackle and over a guard. I think he can kind of win in both of those areas. Is he going to be a guy who racks up 7, 8, 9, 10 sacks? No. But he can certainly help. But, James Smith, LT Everton's going to be the primary. If they can get another interior presence that can really run complement to that, I think that Alabama's defensive front is going to be absolutely lethal. But I do want to remind people, while it fell short of expectations, some of that was through scheme last year. And I said going in, Kane Womack's defense has never had the guys who are racking up the double-digit sacks. It is pressure to turnovers rather than pressure to sacks. And you saw pressure to turnovers quite a bit last year, and you saw the turnovers skyrocket. That will continue, but guys need to be able to finish. And I do think you need to get more as far as your pass rush, but I do think that they will, and I think they got the options.
I'm really looking forward to I actually went back and watched some footage from him from last season, the Florida transfer, Kelby Collins. And I think that Alabama's in a better place. I'm curious as to how they're going to they do have some depth there on that defensive line now, what that rotation is going to look like. You talked about this on your show a few weeks ago. I was listening in. Any insight there and what your thoughts are?
He is one. I was super excited when Alabama got him. Because, we at the time, I don't know if we had gotten news on Latham staying yet or not. But either way, it was either we thought Latham was probably leaving, or we got in the news he was going to be making the transition to Wolf full time. But, when I watched his tape at Florida, he looked super uncomfortable playing on the interior. When I watched with him the previous season as a freshman, kind of being an edge guy, played a lot more confident and got after it. I was pretty shocked to see him exclusively playing on the interior on A-Day. But he looks a lot more filled out. Having a year of experience doing that should help him. I do think he's going to be an inside-out option. I think he's going to be, a bandit. He's going to get some situational work out on the edge. But they really, in my opinion, I think the defensive line, the interior of the defensive line is at its best when you can have 5 guys rotating, where you can go 2 deep plus 1. And so we think it's going to be James Smith and Tim Keenan being the starters. We think Edric Hill and Jeremiah Beeman. Who's going to be that 5th guy? And it could be, Waaaay. It could be a number of different players. But I think Kelby Collins, the fact that he can kind of help as far as your depth at bandit, and he can be that 5th interior defensive lineman and kind of do both, I really think that bolsters not only your, run defense, but also your interior pass rush. So I like him. I was probably more excited about him when he first committed. But, if this is a former top 50, top 60 recruit, he's got a lot of ability. And so if he can kind of be in 6'4", 285, if he can be a little bit better, more consistent as far as playing on the interior, he can certainly be a disruptor.
He's depth, if anything. That's another body, if anything.
Look, I just want the D line to be able to shut down the middle shovel pass. If they can shut that down, I'll be happy.
Be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be really nice. Adam, this is a great segue. It's talking about Justin Hill with this defense and how talented it is. I kind of feel like the defense is going to be young too, especially in the middle of the defense. He brings up Justin Hill. What's the impact look like to you from a lot of these freshmen coming in? With a lot of talent, especially at the linebacker position, Abdul Sanders. What are you expecting there?
Justin Hill's one where it's like, I love the talent. One of my favorite signings that Alabama had in this past cycle. Don't see like a clear path to playing time, but sometimes guys are just so good that you can't keep them off the field. And I wouldn't be shocked if that ended up being Justin Hill. I've compared the versatility, not the same player, but in the same way that you could use Jahad Campbell as an off-ball linebacker and then situationally use him as an edge rusher. You can do the opposite with a guy like Justin Hill, where you're using him primarily as an edge guy, but not just playing that wolf position where he's playing that shallow off-ball linebacker. You can actually play him. Dallas Turner a couple of years ago against Mississippi State, I don't know if you guys remember, but he pretty much played off-ball linebacker in that game. Did get some work out on the edge, but he was primarily an true off-ball inside linebacker. And I remember thinking in that game, first of all, he's way better at this than I ever would have imagined. And B, I wouldn't be shocked if you saw some of that eventually on the NFL level. Now we'll have to wait and see. But a guy like Justin Hill, he could do something like that. You can move him around, create mismatches, and just with the way that this defense, you see a 4-2-5 is what we call the base. But in a lot of ways, some people call it a 3-3-5 because that wolf is playing off the ball quite a bit, and he's kind of, is he a down lineman? No. And when you play the 3-3 look, that wolf is supposed to be your fourth, defensive lineman, and he's responsible for the quarterback, and he's playing chase. A guy like Justin Hill can do that at an elite level, and I think he can provide some juice as far as being a pass rusher. So I'm super excited about him and his future in Tuscaloosa. Don't know if it's going to be in 2025, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if at bare minimum you saw him situationally. But if not, 2026, people need to be watching out for this guy because I think he's going to end up being one of Alabama's best defensive players.
Outstanding.
I'd love it.
We want to be mindful of your time and respectful to your time. So we won't keep you. We've been talking for about 45 minutes here. So again, man, thank you for joining us. Do me a favor really quick. Tell everybody where they can find you, what you've got going on.
Yeah, you can find me. Cover Crimson YouTube channel is where we're doing our daily show over there. Also have covercrimson.com. It's a message board community we're building. That's where I do all of my written content right now. And then also at Clint R. Lamb on Twitter. You can follow me there. But guys, I appreciate y'all having me on. This has been a lot of fun, and we should definitely do it again soon.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Brother. Take it easy. Yes. Enjoy your evening. Have a great weekend, Clint.
Thanks, Clint.
Absolutely, guys.
Roll Tide.
All right. That was good stuff.
That was a good segment there.
That was good stuff. I know
everybody's Clint, man. Wow.
Yeah,
he was just
that guy. I don't
ripping and running. Love it.
He knows more about football than I could ever hope to. So we learned.
Yeah, I was very impressed.
Well, the chat, some news broke while we were talking to Clint.
The chat behaved. I'm impressed.
You guys did a good job. I want to applaud you. J-Bake, fantastic job. There was an Auburn troll in the chat. And nobody.
Can we just permanently put this on the screen for the rest of the show? Thank you.
Yeah, we'll just leave it up.
Raj.
All right.
We're just going to leave that up the rest of the show. It's permanent overlay.
So, guys, I want to tell you, new gig here. Not a new gig, but for Bill. I know a lot of you keep asking, when's Bill coming back? Well, Bill can't come back now until we get an unspecified amount of donations. I know you guys don't like when people beg for your money, but we're going to do it. Also, super chats. So those will contribute to getting Bill back on the show. So do them as you will. For those of you, again, before we jump into recruiting, because I know everybody was waiting to talk about some recruiting. Last night, I did an interview with four-star linebacker Nick Abrams. He just came off his Alabama official visit. He's going to Oregon this weekend. We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to it. Don't let them. It's gonna be nasty. Be sure to go check that out. Got a really cool video coming out tomorrow talking about Ty Simpson. Be on the lookout for that, and an update regarding 5-star linebacker who was on the show with us, Xavier Griffin. One more video to promote. Meet Alabama's newest quarterback, 4-star Jet Thomala. I did a whole video
despite this picture, he will have a helmet that fits at Alabama.
In the video, I called him Thomala the entire time. So I like the way
Harris.
No, dude, the Clint corrected me without making it obvious. He goes Thomala like that. I was like, yeah, man, I know, my bad. Anyway, let's talk some recruiting. Bring back Bill. You guys give super chats. Jeff, do you want to talk about Auburn Anonymous really quick and what we've got going on there with the head-to-head
Yes,
series?
They're actually in the chat tonight. You guys be nice to them. They're coming on the show next Thursday. Even though he's throwing the gauntlet out saying, hey, bring it.
I don't know. I hope you know what you're
Miles
asking
and Michael
for.
At Auburn Anonymous, we're excited about having them on to tell us why their Auburn Tigers are a playoff team, and we can refute and debate and disagree or agree or whatever. So we're looking forward to having those guys on. They're content creators as well, so we support all content creators that are passionate about their teams. Yeah. Rising tide lifts all boats, people. So that's what we're in the game for.
I'll go ahead and tell you guys, the worst two in our chat are moderators. So yeah, you've been warned.
These are good dudes. They're passionate about their team. They're confident with their team, and that's how we are with Alabama. So
there's one of them right there.
Bring them on.
Which I need to fix EJ's moderator status before I hop out of here tonight. But anyway, great interview with Clint Lamb. Very insightful.
Yeah, very insightful.
Some pretty.
I was enjoying his analysis of the team. The positions and the players of the team. That's what I was enjoying there.
That dude is locked in, bro. Like straight locked in. Absolutely love it. But let's talk some recruiting. Like I said, news broke just a little while ago that 5-star safety Jet Washington committed to Oregon. No crap. We knew it. We knew that's what was coming, guys. Like, listen, and I brought this up with Clint. I know that a lot of Alabama fans are being extremely impatient. It sucks having to wait. But dude, things are moving. And to Clint's point, I think that there are a lot of things moving behind the scenes that you and I aren't privy to that will come to fruition later on. Also, I'm just going to remind you all again, I say this every time we talk recruiting. It is June 19th. It is June 19th. A handful of these guys right now will find themselves on their college campuses in January, and the rest will show up in 2026 at a later date. There is so much that is going to change over the next several months leading into December. It's not funny. A lot of these schools that are getting these commitments on when they have these kids on campus, these OVs, 50% of those guys aren't going to stick.
It's all recency bias.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, man. They're riding a high, and it changed. We saw that last year. We saw guys who committed to Alabama during that cold summer cookout who ended up flipping. Ty Haywood ended up flipping. Caleb Cunningham ended up flipping. Dawson Merritt ended up flipping. It's going to happen.
It'll happen again. Just telling you.
Eric's putting money on it. Well, he's not coming to Bama. And listen, don't bet money on these kids, man, because they're kids. They're kids. Listen.
Bingo.
Recruiting is so fluid that none of us should waste any emotional bandwidth on recruiting. It is fun to talk about. It is fun to speculate. It's fun to predict. But ultimately, nobody knows anything 100%. And
the players don't even know half the time when they're going up to make their announcement. They don't know. They decide like while they're sitting there. Most of them don't know.
These are kids, man. We had Xavier Griffin on. That dude is 16 years old. He is 16 years old.
Yeah, luckily I had to remind myself of that because he looked like about 23.
I know, but luckily for him, his mother is very, very heavily involved in his recruitment, which is fantastic because some of these kids don't have that kind of oversight and counsel. And so just remember, guys. Like it is okay. It is going to be okay. Yes, Alabama is recruiting Jamarian Gordon. I mean, we don't know much on him because he's not one of the bigger highlighted names that we're talking about. I'll be honest, I haven't been following his recruitment for a while because I'm talking about all the ones that people want to talk about. And several of those guys are going to be on campus this weekend. Alabama is hosting its fourth official visit weekend in Tuscaloosa. Their guys already on campus. I've seen Xavier Crowell is there. 4-star tight end Max Sutter is there. Cedarian Morgan is going to be there. It is going to be a loaded list of visitors. In fact, I'm going to run through the list really quick, Jeff, if you're okay with that. Is that all right with you? Okay, let's do it. I already said Cedarian Morgan, and Xavier Crowell, 5-star edge, Anthony Tank Jones. This is a big one that Alabama is involved in, will be on campus. Another big development here, 4-star cornerback Zion Gibson, Alabama commit, will be on campus. We talked about Max Sutter, 4-star safety Laziah Jackson will be on campus. Another Alabama commit, Chris Booker, 4-star offensive lineman, will be on campus. 4-star linebacker Anthony Davis will be on campus. Rutgers commit, Rael Kelly, safety, 3-star. Javari Barnett, Illinois commit. He's a running back. He'll be on campus. Taden Kawa, QB, will be on campus. Mitchell Smith, offensive tackle. Owen Cabell, very likely will commit to Alabama if Alabama doesn't fill the wide receivers. Will be on campus, and 3-star linebacker Zay Hall, very likely to commit to Alabama too if Alabama doesn't fill its linebackers. Bama is going to be fine. J-Bake, tell him in the chat.
Have we ever had a Gordon?
Say in the chat.
Huh? Historically, has Alabama ever had a Gordon?
Probably. That's good right here. Yes. Why wouldn't? I mean, the guy's in his backyard, Red. I'm sure. And listen, he commits on the 29th, and let's just assume it's Bama. Bama, I still think, is the betting favorite here. Texas is making a hard push. Ohio State's made a hard push. He did not take an OV to Georgia, but he's been there. He's from Georgia.
Florida State visit go?
He's going to be he is actually going to be there this weekend. Okay. And so he hasn't been yet. He'll be in Florida State this weekend. Let's just say it's Bama. Just because he verbally commits to Bama doesn't mean everybody just stops recruiting him. That's why we tell you guys, and Red, you know this just as well as I do. It doesn't matter until they're on campus. They're even national letters of intent, guys. There's ways for these kids to get out of that stuff. Jaden Rashada, we all saw that, right? Here we go. Right here, J-Bake. There's a storm coming. Storm's coming. Recruiting will heat up. Alabama will get their guys. They do this every year, even under Nick Saban. You get that late summer lull. And then after the last week of June, things start to heat up. And then they heat up as we move forward into the fall. There's a lot of guys. Alabama wants to get Tristan Keys, 5-star wide receiver. I think he's going to land with LSU when it's said and done. But Alabama decided they wanted to get him on campus during the fall for a game, right? Sorry, Jeff. Just messing stuff up over here. My bad, guys. Absolutely. Sorry. What positions? Safety. Safety, Adam. What's up, Marcus? How you doing? You missed the Clint Lamb segment. You're gonna have to go back and watch it. 40 minutes of football goodness.
It was good. He
40
was
minutes of
spitting
football
it left and right. I agree. Beat on it, man. He'd have a cut of record.
Yeah, I agree with you, AK. We keep saying starting on the 26th. I brought this up with Clint. I think Bama's going to get some good news. Now, Xavier Griffin came on the show, right? His mother is a big Alabama fan. Things seem to be lining up for Alabama for him. Wilt Fong's put in a prediction for him to land at Alabama. Well, yesterday, he put in a prediction for the one linebacker to land at Ohio State, and then this morning flipped it over to USC. Things change in recruiting, and that's just the nature of it. Okay.
So USC.
Yeah. Pretty much started a bidding war between Ohio State and USC, and that's where they ended up.
Ohio State will win that one.
Eric, I think he's going to LSU. I think he'll be at LSU. That kid is an LSU Tiger if I've ever seen one.
For at least a year. All these guys are going to be in the free agent pool next year. Remember this. When everybody gets down and out that we lose a player, they'll just sign him next year. When he's a free agent, it'll be fine.
Marcus, the best part about missing Clint is as soon as we're done here, the video's still up. You can go back and rewatch it again, buddy. Super simple, man. You can do it
better the second time.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
So Jeff, how's your week been, man? We haven't really had a chance to cut up at all because we went straight at it as soon as we started.
Man, it's there's a lot of buzz going on this recruiting stuff, but not a lot of action up until a couple guys. These are all verbals, by the way. All these major announcements are all verbals, so they're worth really nothing until they actually sign the LOI, which, like you said earlier, you can get out of that now too. So,
yeah,
I don't know. It's hard to get wound up, and then half these guys don't even go to the place they commit by the time it's time for signing day. 1,000% committed. We saw all season. Then Haywood goes to Michigan. Same thing with what's his name. They went to Ole Miss. They were 1,000% the whole time, and then showed up and signed with somebody else. Just Bobby Massey did the same thing several years ago. Offensive lineman showed up signing day, Ole Miss.
Yeah, I mean look at
key piece too.
Look at what happened with Brandon Arrington this week. Probably one of the bigger recruits, right? There's a ton of rumors out there that he's dropping a visit and that it's going to be Texas A&M. We were talking about that. And then, he drops Alabama out of his top 3 last weekend or Sunday night. And then just a couple days later, he commits to Texas A&M out of the blue. Everybody kind of knew he was going to go to Texas A&M, but what do you think is the biggest player there? What do you think is pushing that kind of? I feel, this is just my opinion. This is just me talking. I don't have anything to back this up. I feel like there's potential that Alabama dropped his offer for him because he was trying to start a bidding war. He was trying.
Yeah, they're not going to play those games.
Yeah, and I think that they're trying to set a precedence to go, no, we're not going to do that. And I think Oregon bailed on him now. I think Oregon bailed on him, and that's why he went ahead and made it official with Texas A&M. There we go. Jake agreed. Yeah.
Well, he made it verbally official, but he could bebop up on signing day next year and throw a Longhorns sign up with a hat on.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And, and that's the thing. But also what I want you guys to realize, a lot of you, even despite my warnings, you're emotionally invested in some of these guys like Xavier.
You've been warned.
Yeah. I told you, don't waste your bandwidth. And that's not a knock at Xavier Griffin or his family. He is just doing what they think is best for him. Like the kid is, he's put in all the work to get to this point. Let him enjoy it. But, also remember that the same people that are putting out that, he's now favored to Texas, he's now favored to Ohio State, are the same people that have predicted him to land at Alabama. Why would they be doing that? Well, if you'll look at what they did yesterday, is the past 2 days, they have been hyping Texas up a lot. Well, it's probably because Texas is about to get a couple of recruits. I don't know that they'll be.
They always are.
Yeah, and that's how they operate. They operate because
Texas is always on the verge.
Yeah, they know you're emotionally invested, so they hint at what you're emotionally invested at so that you will click on it. We kind of do the same thing sometimes with thumbnails. I'm not going to lie. I'll be honest with you. Like everybody does it.
Been burned a lot by thumbnails.
Yeah. It's clickbait because they know that you're emotionally invested and that you'll click on it. Clever, I agree. It's the nature of it now. So you either like it or quit watching. You know what I mean? Like I feel like those are our only two options.
Tell yourself you quit watching until that first Saturday and fall rolls around, and it's the first Saturday. There's going to be Alabama football that day. You're watching.
It's
because I'll be watching, and it makes me sick too. But when it comes to Bama football, I'm watching it. That's just what I do.
Does Alabama have a chance to get Elijah Golden? I think they do. I think they're pretty heavy in the mix there. Absolutely. Now he is at Notre Dame this weekend, but Bama's not going to get that last visit. And yes, it is outbidding, and that's what makes it frustrating because there's not an even playing field in terms of bidding on these guys.
Yeah. Yeah, Texas full throttle after Griffin, and they should. I mean, everybody recruiting him should go full throttle after that kid. That guy's a winner.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
he's going to be drafted in 3 years.
Yeah, I think he's going to be successful wherever he goes.
Which, quick shout out, C.J. Mosley retired today.
That's pretty cool.
Alabama
man. Great.
11 seasons in the NFL.
I actually had a class with him at Alabama. A really quiet guy, but there were some other guys from the football team in that class that were a little rowdy and disruptive. And I remember one day they were kind of causing a scene, and Mosley just kind of set up and gave them this look, and they just all stopped immediately. Like there, you could tell there was a lot of reverence for him on that team.
That Rolando McClain look you get, and you're like, we better tighten up. We don't want this smoke.
So
anyway. I heard Rolando gave that look a few times in his time there to line some people up.
Yeah. So K-Spray, the House settlement has to deal with the schools directly paying players. Collectives can still pay players whatever.
Yeah.
If they're not a school organization or however other you want, boosters, things like that.
Yeah.
So yes, it's a fix in one area, but it doesn't fix the entire. And let's be honest, if they put a cap on all of it, the McDonald's bag deals are going to show up again. I mean,
right. Like the if they want to go, they can. The whole deal with NIL is they're supposed to go out and do these on their own. Like you can go out and sell your name and image or likeness on your own for whatever you want. And the schools should not have been involved in that. But then they started setting these deals up for them. And then it just bypassed all that and went to just handing them money directly, but calling it NIL. So NIL got completely washed, what it really is. So if this collective helps in that area, but these guys can still go out and sell their likeness and make profit off their likeness. And you can't cap somebody from doing that, but you can cap what a school can provide for them. And so hopefully it'll get rid of that. And then these guys can just go out and sign their own deals for their own image. They can just go do that on their own.
Absolutely. Adam, no, probably not. I mean, it looks like LSU's got a pretty substantial lead there. We'll see, but no, I don't think so. So he took a visit late May. I think he was on campus late May, but there are some guys Bama's still in contention for. So don't panic. I know everybody's panicking. So this weekend, I think, is going to be very good to Alabama in terms of recruiting. So be sure that you are sticking around because we will cover every bit of it. If you have not followed us on social media, Sutter is there right now, Clover. He got there today. I think Bama's in a pretty good position for him. So we'll see. Listen, to Xavier Griffin, his whole family are big Alabama fans. We had his mom on the show with him. To Eric's point here, I'm not saying this is what's going to happen by any means. I'm just saying this is a possibility. I think where he was committed to before he decommitted, he was committed to USC, right? USC is a known NIL primary school. The NIL is one of their primary recruiting tools. I'm not saying that's what happened. Xavier didn't tell me that. His mom did not tell me that. But I'm saying that there are a lot of players out there who you can make that connection and go, I don't necessarily know it's Xavier, but there's a lot of players out there that you can make that connection and go, well, obviously they went there for money. So if they did it once, would they spurn their hometown school once for money? Will they do it again? Absolutely, probably. I'm not saying that's the case with Xavier Griffin. I'm just saying that these are kids, man. These are kids being offered ungodly amounts of money to go places. And you guys can see it. There's a reason Texas A&M is recruiting as well as they are. There's a reason Oregon hasn't won a national championship and is recruiting as well as they are. It's not because they think Dan Lanning's cool. It's because of money. USC has not been USC since what, 2004? Since Vince Young, and they're still recruiting really, really well. The only team that is recruiting at that level right now, the only two teams recruiting at that level right now or 3 that have a leg to stand on in terms of success on the field are LSU, Ohio State, Georgia. And Alabama will be right up there in the conversation when the season's over with, or when the recruiting season's over with. So just be patient, guys.
We're gonna be good. Whoever commits or doesn't commit, but when all the dust settles, we'll be good.
There's a season coming. There is a football season coming, and that is going to change a lot in the
players on the team.
Yeah, that is going to change a lot in the recruiting landscape. So we'll be talking more about that moving forward, guys. I think we're going to go ahead and call it a night. Jeff, I can tell he's done for the evening. He looks tired. I am not feeling my best.
Getting over pink eye.
Yeah, I get it, dude. So absolutely, Red. I agree with you 100%.
Red's right here.
They've been doing fine. Things are working. And listen, if you don't believe me, listen to Courtney Morgan. He's told you quality over quantity.
Bingo.
He's talked about the long race as opposed to just getting guys to commit. There's a reason he's saying those things. Be patient. So
yes,
I know there's a
Trust
philosophy.
The boys up there, they're doing well.
There's a philosophy out there that there's a lot of deals that are already done. You're just letting these kids have their day, letting them have their.
I'm sure that's true.
So
a lot of these guys probably already know they're just taking their visits like they should. They should take them all. Take everyone.
They earned it, man. They earned it.
Absolutely. 100%.
Well, don't worry. We're going to cover all of it. I know Jeff hates it because he's a recruiting Grinch, but that's okay. We're gonna cover every bit of it. I will for you. I'll be the sacrificial goat because the minute I say something and something doesn't happen, I'm gonna get drug on social media for it. But whatever, I don't care. People.
Hey man, if you ain't getting drug, it means you ain't trying.
Yeah, it's true enough. So I had a burner account tell me the other day. I don't know what I'm talking about because I never. You don't talk to recruits, and so I just took a screenshot of Xavier Griffin on the show and just put it in the comment section. Didn't say anything else. Like, shut up.
Kind of an recruit.
Anyway, if you don't want to miss any of it, here's what you do. You follow me and Jeff over on X at Waaaay Offsides. Follow Chris and Bill too. Bill's not super active right now. Look, Bill gets a little political sometimes just because Bill's, he's Bill.
Because he's Bill.
So that is not. Tell him. Be like, Bill, talk football, buddy.
Yeah, it's a football show.
Yeah.
Or a sports show. I'm dealing with no politics.
But be sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, tell your friends.
Please do.
Tell everybody about us. Next live, we have, like Jeff said, next week, Auburn Anonymous with us. I am lining up some more recruiting.
We did find one thing Cotton agrees with them on.
What's that? I don't remember.
That Diego Pavia was the second worst quarterback in the SEC or the most overrated quarterback in the SEC. Oh. So we did find a common ground.
Of course, Alabama and Auburn fans feel that way about Diego Pavia. So screw that guy.
I wasn't going to explore the backstory of it. Just know that we did find a common ground there.
Hey, look, I'll tell you this much. That guy better shut his mouth very, very soon, or he's not making it halfway through the 2025 season.
The ball's on this kid.
He is pissing everybody off.
The ball's on this dude, man.
He's forgotten that he's got to meet some of these folks on the field, man. Roll Tide, Eric. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody in the chat, for hanging out, for commenting. Couldn't do it without y'all in the chat, driving the show, giving us stuff to talk about. We care about your opinions, and we're happy to see everybody.
But you know the drill. As always, say your prayers, read your Bibles, wash your damn hands. Horns down, beat Auburn and LSU and Tennessee too. Roll Tide, y'all.
Rolleth.